And the very first thing I would like to do is to pause for a moment in reflection of Bob Stevens, who this is our first formal meeting since Bob passed away, and he was an excellent chair of this committee, this subcommittee. So if we just pause for a minute and just reflect. Thank you. Thank you. He was a very able chair and a very decent person. I now move on to the first item on the agenda, the appointment of chair. And from my position of chairing this element of the meeting, I'd like to propose John Horner be chair of the pension subcommittee for the year 2020 to 2021. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, I'll second that, Bill.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? In that case, as there are no other nominations, I will pass the chair over to, metaphorically speaking, over to John Horner.
Good. Thank you very much, Bill.
Do we need to vote on that just to make it legal?
Sorry.
As a matter of procedure.
If there's no dissent, you can do it by affirmation.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Thanks very much. Yeah, I mean, Bob is going to be a very difficult person to follow because he was extremely good. And also at the start of the Borders of the Coast pool, he was deputy chair there and was very influential, I think, largely because of his ability to get on with everybody. And, you know, as a sort of a very, very astute and friendly person. And certainly as the Stratford councillor, he was very helpful to me when I started out in local government. And it was a great shock actually to me, and I think to most people, because I never really thought he was particularly infirm or ill, you know, had a problem, but that's as it may be. Anyway, let's move on. Apologies for absence.
Apologies for Mandy Jens.
Yeah. Yes, he's been appointed by the Conservatives to stand in the committee, and of course it was a relatively short notice, and I gather he's on holiday, so that's good. Members' disclosures of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests. Anybody got to disclose anything?
Nope.
No. Thanks. And we now move on to minutes of previous meeting. How do you want to do this? Shall I go through each page, or are you happy to take them as read? I think the first minutes of the Thursday, 23rd of July, they're fairly straightforward and nothing contentious. Are you happy that I sign them?
Agreed, Chairman. Take it as read.
Thank you.
Agreed.
And again, the minutes of the 8th of June. Anything on page? I suppose we'll work on the pack pages. Page 7, 8, 9.
I have a question.
Yep.
Don't know whether this is the point. We had a question about cybersecurity policy and that it would be coming up at a later committee. We haven't been informed when that might be yet.
No, there's a forward programme further in the meeting, which maybe we could postpone it to there. So that's a good point, and I'll put that in the notepad. Cybersecurity, yes. Anything else? Page 9, page 10, page 11. No. Good. Are you happy I signed these?
Agreed.
Great.
Agreed.
Thank you. Now we then have to review, or just note the minutes of the local pension board. I hope everybody's had a chance to look at these. Victoria, anything we should be aware of to draw our attention to?
I think that there is the forward plan and that we're getting the policy schedule aligned with annual review for each policy. It may be that some policies are reviewed internally and we bring them to the relevant committee to note that no changes have been made though. But where changes are to be made, we'll flag those. There's also a slight alteration to the terms of reference for the local pension board, but that will go to council for recording and for bringing through. Good.
And regarding the local pension board, we do invite them to the training, don't we?
Yes.
Excuse me. But there's certainly one or two people seem to turn up fairly regularly, don't they?
Yes.
That's good. No, it's really good. Right. Okay. So we've noted those minutes. So we move on to forward plan. Victoria, do you want, or Chris? Is it Chris who wants to talk about that?
Yes, just introduce it briefly. So this is the rolling one-year plan for the investment subcommittee. Just a couple of things to highlight. You can see a schedule of pension fund policies at the end of this document, and the work's going on in the background to convert this into a kind of proper timetable so that we're clear about when each
meeting. That's quite a lot. That's
they would go to different places depending on what they are. So some may be the investment subcommittee, some may be staff and pensions, some may be local pension board. We'll set that out once we've got the dates and a plan so you can see what goes where. And some policies, although it's good governance to review them every year, some might not change and it might feel more like a box ticking exercise, but it's good governance that we mindfully go, right, these ones we're going to give a good look at, a good kind of review, and these ones we're fine with. But that's got to be mindful. What we want to avoid is that we've got a policy where it's stayed in a cupboard for 3 years and it's fine, but it's fine by chance. What we want is our policies to be right by design.
Yes, no, I think you're right. You have to factor in a review rather than ad hoc review as necessary, because it never gets done. Whereas if we do it, then it's good. But presumably we would have, where it affects us, we would have to comment on staff and pensions, wouldn't we?
Yes, so staff and pensions and the investment subcommittee are the two executive committees, and so most policies will go to those two committees. There may be some where they may go through local pension board for comment, either prior to or after, or for review after you've approved them. But we'll set that out in the overall timetable. Yeah.
When do you think the timetable might be ready?
I've got a discussion this week to look at it. Certainly by the December committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. December committee action is to get the timetable sorted. Great. Right. Risk monitoring. Next point.
Hi all. So this is the next iteration of last quarter's risk registers. We've put the general and the COVID ones separately, but on the same report. So hopefully there's some consistency there. The things to flag in terms of changes are the long-term asset values. We think that while these have rebounded to the end of March values, there's still a lot of uncertainty. Volatility is very high in markets, and that affects our bonds as well as our equities. And when we affect bonds, then we can see an impact on the discount rate used for measuring our liabilities. Bill, your hand is raised. Do you have a question?
Yes, I was just wondering about Board the Coast's backup. You know, that is something that we might wish to question Board the Coast about, I think.
Yes, that's very sensible. Borders Coast will be presenting later this meeting. In terms of their operational policies, I can investigate that outside of this as well.
Thank you.
Agree that that is a risk that probably deserves its own line on the register.
Yeah.
The asset values, hopefully the explanations in the report give you some colour as to why we think that these risks exist and why we feel that they haven't changed maybe from last quarter, even though they have changed from the original assessment back in February. Does anyone have any questions on those?
Just a very quick one, just to draw people's attention to the appendix, which has got the mitigation issues. So what we're doing, we've identified a risk and what we're doing about it.
Thank you, John. Yes. So in the covering report, we've just set out the net changes from February. In the appendices, we have the full Excel sheet, if you like, stating how we have thought about mitigation actions and that we are taking those actively and have been for several months.
Good, and we're happy that the amber for everything is a fair representation.
We think so, yes.
Good.
Are there any that you would like to discuss?
Well, we're coming on to investment returns anyway later, aren't we?
Yes.
Good. Anything else? Bill, got any other comments?
Well, I mean, the whole COVID-19 is something obviously that is a risk, and we don't quite know how that's going to. It wouldn't be a risk if we knew exactly what was going to happen. We don't know exactly what's going to happen over the next 6 months or so.
Agreed. Yes.
And
We have a little bit less uncertainty around some aspects. For instance, our ability to function from home. We have now actually experienced that for going on 6 months, and it seems that our systems, our people, and our processes have continued to be productive. There has been a bit of a flag raised around what happens if something like Wi-Fi goes down, but we feel that there is business support from Warwickshire County Council. We do have custodians based in alternative sectors geographically, and so we feel that actually the risks to the assets being affected are low.
Thank you.
Okay. In that case, shall we move on to
You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I'm muted. Yeah, Neil, any comments?
Yeah, I was just going to comment that it is encouraging to see that the number 11 loss of service provision due to disruption has turned green, and I think that is backed up by the comments that Victoria has just made. But that is really good. Whatever else is happening outside, we feel that we're reasonably secure in covering the situation.
Good.
Yes, County Council's done a good job there. Yeah.
Good. Wallace, any comments?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Welcome. Okay, so no more comments. Victoria, anything to finish off with?
A raised hand from Bill.
Bill.
Yes, I was just going to say I'm pleased that you've got number 5 down as a risk, failure to realise pooling benefits, because that's something that I think we should be constantly keeping an eye open.
Noted. Thank you. I think, yes, that bit about bringing pooling to the fore. Probably.
Yeah, good. Okay, so there's some good points there. Thanks, everybody. Right, we have to move on to agenda 7.
Agenda 6, Chair, first, please. Reports containing exempt or confidential information. You need to move the recommendation.
Right. I move that members of the public be excluded from the meeting for the items mentioned below on the grounds that their presence would involve the disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of Schedule 12A of Part 1 of the Local Government Act 1972. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, agreed,
Second.
Chairman.
Thanks, Neil. Okay, that's moved. Any dissensions? No. Good. We move into private session.
Can we just wait until Carl that we're no longer public?
Yep. That come through?
Have we stopped, Deborah?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.